Today we're diving into the incredible true story that mirrors the chaos and survival of Lord of the Flies. For those who don't know, Lord of the Flies is a classic novel exploring the dark side of human nature through the tale of British schoolboys stranded on a deserted island. But what if I told you that in 1965, a group of 6 boys from Tonga lived out a real-life version of this story? This is the gripping tale of the Tongan Castaways. The story begins with 6 boys from St. Andrew's College on the island of Tonga Tapu. Sione Fatahua, the eldest at 16, was joined by his friends Stephen, Tavita, Fatalatu, Kolofekatoa, Mano, and the youngest, David, who was just 13. All of them were natives of the windy island of Hafeva. These boys, fed up with the strict and monotonous routine of their Catholic boarding school, dreamed of adventure and freedom. The strict rules and the boredom of daily lessons pushed them to concoct a bold plan: to escape their school and sail to Fiji or even New Zealand. They decided to steal a fishing boat from a grumpy local fisherman they all disliked. Without much preparation or thought, they set sail with only 2 sacks of bananas, a few coconuts, and a gas burner, expecting the sea to provide the rest. Their lack of navigational tools like maps or a compass showed their naivety and desperation for a new life. At first, the boys' escape seemed to be blessed with good fortune. The weather was clear, and the sea was calm as they navigated their stolen boat away from Tonga Tapu. Spirits were high, and the excitement of their daring adventure fueled their confidence. However, their inexperience soon caught up with them. On the first night, exhausted from the day's events, they all fell asleep. It was a critical mistake. They woke abruptly to the sound of the sea crashing over their heads. A storm had come upon them, and they were caught unprepared. In the chaos, the sail was torn to shreds by the fierce winds, leaving them at the mercy of the storm. Struggling to maintain control, the boys faced yet another disaster. The rudder broke, rendering the boat nearly impossible to steer. They were adrift, lost in the vast ocean. For 8 long days, they battled hunger and thirst. They used hollowed-out coconut shells to collect the meager rainwater that fell, rationing it carefully. 1 sip in the morning, 1 in the evening. Their attempts at fishing were largely unsuccessful, and the reality of their situation began to set in. Weak and desperate, the boys' hopes dwindled with each passing day. On the 8th day, a glimmer of hope appeared on the horizon. Through their exhaustion and despair, the boys spotted land, Ata Island. Their hearts surged with renewed energy, and they mustered the last of their strength to steer the damaged boat towards the rocky shore. As they approached, the rough waves hurled them against the jagged cliffs, smashing the boat to pieces. Bruised and cut from the impact, the boys struggled to climb ashore. It took them nearly 36 hours to pull themselves onto the island, each step a battle against their weakened bodies. The island itself was rugged and unwelcoming, with steep cliffs and sharp rocks dominating the landscape. Despite its harsh appearance, the boys felt a profound sense of relief. Ata, with all its challenges, offered them a chance to survive, something the open sea could no longer provide. Exhausted, they dug a makeshift cave to rest in, finding temporary shelter from the elements. As they lay on the hard ground, the reality of their situation began to sink in. Sione and Stephen naturally assumed leadership roles. Sione provided instruction and guidance for survival, while Stephen offered pastoral care and advice, leading the group in daily prayers for rescue. Their next challenge was to find food and water. Remembering some survival tricks his father had taught him, Sione led the boys in hollowing out trees to slowly fill with rainwater. However, this method took days to produce enough to drink. Desperate for sustenance, the boys began climbing the steep cliffs to capture seabirds. They not only ate the birds, but also drank their blood to stay hydrated, as their water supplies were critically low. They consumed everything raw, as they had not yet mastered fire. Life on the island quickly settled into a daily routine of survival. Each day began with the boys frantically attempting to create a fire by rubbing 2 pieces of wood together. This monotonous and often frustrating task became their primary focus, as they knew that mastering fire was key to their survival. Arguments were inevitable, given the stress and their precarious situation. However, the boys had developed a system to manage conflicts. Whenever tensions flared, they would call for a timeout, each taking a walk in the jungle to calm down and reflect before returning to the group. they understood that their survival depended on cooperation and unity. Amidst their struggles, there were moments of creativity and ingenuity. Kolo, a budding musician, crafted a guitar from scraps of wire, a plank of wood, and a coconut. The boys would gather around, singing songs and playing music, finding solace in these small moments of happiness. After months of persistence, a breakthrough finally came. One of the boys managed to create a spark, and a small flame flickered to life. The significance of this moment was immense. Fire meant warmth, cooked food, and a signal for rescue. The boys celebrated their success, guarding the precious fire with their lives. They built a small shelter to protect it, ensuring it never went out. During their time on Atta, the boys faced numerous challenges beyond just survival. One of the most significant incidents was when Stephen suffered a serious injury. While hunting on the steep cliffs of the island, Stephen slipped and fell, tumbling down the rugged terrain. His fall left him with a broken leg. Immediately, the boys rallied to his aid. They carefully carried Stephen back to their camp, where they used branches and makeshift materials to bind and set his broken leg. The recovery was slow and arduous, but with time and the collective effort of the group, Stephen gradually regained his strength. Amidst their struggles, there were also moments of unexpected discovery. While exploring the island's terrain, the boys stumbled upon the remnants of an old village. This discovery was a revelation, offering them a glimpse into the island's past and providing valuable resources for their survival. They found wild yucca and other vegetables left behind by previous inhabitants, as well as the descendants of chickens abandoned during an earlier evacuation. The presence of these chickens proved to be a crucial turning point. The boys captured and cared for them, providing a steady source of food through eggs and occasional meat. They built pens to protect the chickens and fed them with coconut scraps. Despite their resilience and resourcefulness, the boys' attempts to escape Atta were fraught with challenges. In one daring effort, they constructed a raft with hopes of reaching nearby islands where they might find help. However, their optimism was short-lived as the raft fell apart just a mile offshore. Defeated but undeterred, they swam back to Atta. As months passed, the boys gradually accepted their fate as castaways on the island. They focused on improving their living conditions, fortifying their shelter, and cultivating the gardens they had discovered. Each day brought new challenges, but they found solace in their routines and the companionship they had formed. It was during this time that Peter Warner, captain of the Just David ship, serendipitously stumbled upon Atta during his journey through Tongan waters. On September 11th, as the ship approached the island, one of Peter's crewmates heard faint calls for help. Intrigued, Peter navigated closer to investigate, noticing burn marks on the island's surface that hinted at human presence. As the Just David anchored near Atta, Peter and his crew were astonished to see 6 emaciated boys swimming towards them. The boys, now almost unrecognizable from their ordeal, eagerly shared their story with Peter. They explained how they had been stranded on Atta for over 15 months, surviving against all odds. Peter, moved by their resilience and determination, immediately radioed their miraculous discovery back to Tonga. The boys' families and authorities, who had long given up hope, were stunned and overjoyed to learn that their loved ones were alive. For the boys, the arrival of the Just David marked the end of their arduous journey as castaways and the beginning of their long-awaited return home. After their miraculous rescue by Peter Warner and the crew of the Just David, the boys were reunited with their families on Tonga. The emotional reunions were filled with tears of joy and relief, as families embraced their sons, who had been presumed lost at sea for over a year. The boys, now visibly transformed by their harrowing experience, were checked over by doctors who marveled at their survival against such daunting odds. However, their return was not without complications. Mr. Tanielo Gila, the local fisherman whose boat they had commandeered, pressed charges against the boys for theft. In response, Peter Warner took decisive action to secure the boys' release. Recognizing their extraordinary story and the injustice of their legal predicament, he devised a plan to create a documentary about their survival. The proceeds from this documentary would be used to compensate Mr. Gila for his lost boat, thereby resolving the legal issue and allowing the boys to return home without further delay. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Goodbye.